Players showing up, reporting to 49ers training camp. Which one of those players has the most riding on 2025 training camp, and maybe some camp sleepers that could earn bigger roles than anybody expects on today's Locked On 49ers?
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers. Thanks for hanging with us. It is almost here. We're going to see some live action players on the field competing for roster spots, competing for the depth chart, preseason around the corner, and then September 7th, the 2025 season kicks off. And so we are almost there. Make sure you are subbed up on YouTube or anywhere you listen to this podcast, and you can find it everywhere. Tell a friend about Locked On 49ers and say hi, whether it's on Twitter or in the YouTube comments. Get some questions or ideas at us if you want something, subject matter for us to hit here on the show. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Croc, it's going to be a weird couple of days because you get excited and players report to camp, but they don't start practicing right away. We're not going to have media there giving us practice reports quite yet and overreacting to every little thing that happens during these training camp practices. So remember to, stay in your seat for some of these reports. Some of this can get overblown what we see out there during practices, and then we'll hear from Kyle Shanahan, I'm sure, at some point here early in the week once players are reporting to camp. We'll get some more information on a lot of these guys. But today's episode here, just getting ready for this, who has the most riding on this training camp? The players with maybe the most to prove, the most to gain or lose in this specific training camp and preseason period for the 49ers, Croc. And which names jumped off the page to you when you were looking at the 49ers roster and thinking which guys maybe have the most riding on this camp?
I think Jalen Graham at linebacker. We've kind of talked about on the defensive side of the ball, the linebacker group. I don't want to say it's up for grabs, but when you look at the depth chart and how it's slated right now, you see some young guys in there, D winners who came in with Jalen Graham. You got Nick Martin there, right? And then obviously Fred Warner, you want him to stay healthy for the entire time. But outside of that, and even then, the first two names that I mentioned, D winners, Nick Martin, we don't even know what we're going to get from them. It's not like you're going into the season and it's like, all right, you got Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, pretty set there. You go nickel package, you throw in a linebacker and get what you get out of that guy. I don't have that feeling with the 49ers linebacker group. So you look at a name like Jalen Graham, and I think there's a ton riding on it, not just for a roster spot, which I'm pretty sure, he's fighting for, but shit, man, just to crack that start lineup, there is a huge opportunity. And I think the training camp, how he starts off and he's picking things up, is he playing fast? Is he confident what he's seeing? And here's one of the key things too that a lot of people aren't thinking about. You got a new defensive coordinator. So whatever happened in the past, and it's not to say that he hasn't watched film, but whatever's happened in the past, he's going to come in and see who does what he wants the best. And those are the guys that end up playing. So I think it's a huge opportunity for guys like Jalen Graham.
Yeah, when they drafted Jalen Graham, did they have more of Robert Saleh's defense in mind than what it ended up becoming with, three subsequent defensive coordinators after Robert Saleh? And for Jalen Graham, I think that's a really good one, Croc, and he wasn't on my list. But when you think about it, Jalen Graham is one of those guys that would you be shocked if he was, in base packages, the starting strong side linebacker for the 49ers in week 1? Or would you be shocked if he didn't make the roster at all? So that's a huge swing. So absolutely, he's got a ton riding on this camp.
Yeah. And as of right now, they have him listed as a strong side linebacker behind Nick Martin. But you look at him, he has a huge frame. All right, 6'3", he's listed at like 220. I think he's heavier than that. When you watch him play, he looks heavier. Not to say that he's moving like slow or anything like that, but he just looks a little bit bigger at the linebacker position. And you start to kind of go back and think of guys in Robert Saleh's defenses who have been a little bit bigger and doing well. You keep going back all the way to the Legion of Boom days, and you see guys like KJ Wright. And I wonder if Robert Saleh can say, hey, look, this guy reminds me of you. And I think if you can, watch some of the film, learn from him. Isn't KJ right? Is he still a linebacker coach for the 49ers?
Yeah, he's with the Niners.
Oh man, I mean,
He
so
just
what
started with
better
the
way?
Niners, right?
Yeah, what better way to learn being a bigger, longer linebacker like Jalen Graham?
Absolutely. That's a really good one, Croc. I want to go to a player on the other side of the ball that's just been in the news a little bit more recently. And for those people that maybe didn't listen to yesterday's podcast, and we talked about the Ricky Pearsall going on to the PUP list, I think this is a huge camp for Ricky Pearsall. Not that he would not make the roster or anything like that, but you've got to prove this preseason and, into the regular season, you've got to take that jump, right? He had a weird rookie season, and look, I mean, you got shot in the chest before the season started. Like, that is not his fault, but it was a weird rookie year, and you need your young wide receivers to start to prove they're ready to go. And there's a wide open opportunity, and the 49ers have a huge need for someone to be out there as a starter, getting the main targets in this offense. And you need to be healthy and on the field to be able to do it. So Ricky Pearsall, in two ways, needs to prove he can be healthy, not have these nagging injuries, prove that he is up to the rigors of the NFL and can be on the field and stay on the field, and prove that he's maybe even wide receiver one in this offense and could be someone who gets 10 targets a game. And the 49ers are happy that they are able to target that player that much and have him be a main part of the passing game, rather than they are forced to utilize a player because they have no other options at wide receiver. And we've seen both of those things happen with the 49ers in the Kyle Shanahan regime. So Ricky Pearsall, huge camp for him to prove he is a starting caliber, maybe even more wide receiver in the NFL. And it starts with being healthy. And I hope in the next 24 to 48 hours we get a little bit more information on that, and he does get activated and his hamstring is ready to go. Huge year for Ricky Pearsall. And look, I'm still drafting him on all my fantasy teams, and to be honest with you, this little pup thing might mean you get a little bit more of a discount even on Ricky Pearsall in your fantasy drafts.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are looking at some of the news that's coming out about Ricky Pearsall and when he'll be back, and there's some people that look at those reports and say, don't worry about it, he'll be out there. And then there's others like me who are just more cautious because, well, we just haven't seen Ricky Pearsall be healthy. If he was one of those guys that just been healthy the whole time, had a minor tweak, comes back, all right, and they're saying, hey, he'll be ready, they're not giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I feel like every way, or every time along this way of him really getting to the NFL, there's just been something. Even while he was playing, I'm not looking at his and maybe I'll pull it up right now and see if I can find anything with it. But Ricky Pearsall game log, I feel like even when he came back, he missed some games.
It was a strange game log for Ricky Pearsall in his rookie year. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, those are things that just kind of worry me with him, with someone who just wasn't able to just be healthy. Right. So, yeah, it may be a minor injury, but for him, it's not very minor to me right now. And it is a huge opportunity and training camp for him to, one, be healthy, show that you're healthy, and show that you're dependable and accountable. Like there is probably nothing worse than going into a game or game planning and the guy that you're counting on to be in a specific role, he's just not there. Even if it's just preparing for it, even if it's just training camp. And you can say all you want, like, well, just get him ready. I talked about it yesterday. Get him ready for week one. Yeah, cool. But man, I want to see my guys out there and be able to build on what we're doing in the offseason as opposed to getting started come week one.
Yeah, it's one thing to just be ready and you're healthy and you're like, okay, you can play today in week one. And there's another side of it where it's like you are ready. You are thriving and you are out there and you are a problem for the opposing defense, right? And that's what you drafted Ricky Pearsall to be late in the first round last year. And, people forget that he was dinged up in the spring and summer last year, even before the incident in downtown San Francisco. So Ricky Pearsall and just getting into the scouting report, because a lot of people haven't seen a lot of Ricky Pearsall in the NFL, and nice little glimpse at the very end of the year last year to show what he could potentially be in the offense. But, it's not a toughness issue for him. It's a play strength issue for him. So what is that going to look like for Ricky Pearsall? He's a narrow guy. I think he works hard. He can get open. He can catch the football. Does he have the play strength and the body that can hold up to being a target hog wide receiver in the NFL? Those are still, some questions for me. But man, the dude loves the game. He's all about ball. He can get open and he can catch the football. And I think that's going to be really big in Kyle Shanahan's offense. We got more players. I got a whole list. I got a couple of sleeper names as well for the San Francisco 49ers. Who has the most riding on camp this year? Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Rugiet. And some of you have probably heard of Viagra, Cialis. Maybe some of you have even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, introducing to you Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes, effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have found it to be the answer. And it's completely online. Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. Check out the customer reviews from real users on the site. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL at checkout to get 15% off today. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. Promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Okay, Croc. Who's got something to prove in camp for you? Which players have the most riding on this specific training camp in 2025?
Oh man, Yetur Gross Matos.
Mhm.
All right, Gross Matos is the guy who came over with Leonard Floyd and got paid a decent chunk of money. And last season, he had like 3 sacks, and it was all in one game, like the last game of the season. So you weren't getting much production out of him. He wasn't healthy for all season, right? There was a portion where he had a stretch where he was healthier. All right, but this is a guy who everybody's kind of overlooking. We're talking about all the rookies. We're talking about bringing in Hall. We're talking about the interior guys and being stout versus the run. But there's a guy that's supposed to really help and contribute to all of that, and it's Gross Matos. So training camp is huge for him. Like, what is his role going to be, and how can he shape out a larger role for him come this season? And the biggest thing is just coming in right now. If I had to guess, he should be in one of the first groups that step on the field. First group, defensive line. Like, bro, you've been here. You are a veteran. We're paying you good money. So now there's a little bit of pressure to really show up and show that you're going to be a part of what the 49ers are doing moving forward with this season. Because if he doesn't, maybe they keep him for depth purposes, but he's making a lot of money. There's a scenario where he gets released if he doesn't have a strong training camp.
Yeah, we just saw it with George Odom as well. Yesterday, you get released pretty quick in the NFL if you're not available and you're not making a big enough impact. And especially if you are someone that can save millions of dollars potentially for the franchise to not be there. And right now, Yetur Gross-Matos does not project to be in the starting rotation. I didn't feel his presence even when he was healthy, and he was banged up too often. And so I don't know, you wouldn't project that his roster spot would be in jeopardy, but I think it's certainly possible. And you have to prove that you are at least a very valuable number 3, second wave defensive end. And they drafted Mykel Williams to be a better version of that big power end that Yetur Gross-Matos already is. So you're not going to be ahead of him on the depth chart as long as Mykel Williams is a dude. And Nick Bosa, definitely not going to be on the depth chart in front of him. And then on third downs, you got Bryce Huff coming in to rush from the outside. Sam Okuanu has proven to be just as valuable, if not more valuable, at a cheaper rate than Yetur Gross-Matos. And so that kind of leads me to, okay, well, if it gets to a roster crunch, who's going to make the roster and who's going to not? And I was kind of struggling with these two names, Croc, and I don't know if either one of these names is on the list for you, but I put Robert Beal on there and Kalia Davis on there because these guys are absolutely fighting for their NFL lives right now. And if they don't show out this year, they are not going to have NFL jobs, at least with the 49ers when week 1 and those cuts roll around. So Robert Beal at defensive end, he might be battling with someone like Yetur Gross-Matos, and Kalia Davis, suddenly a little crowded defensive tackle group with a lot of young guys and a lot of veteran guys. And Kalia Davis, I just, again, Robert Beal, he's played a little bit more on special teams. Does that help him out more? and Khalil Davis. I just haven't felt either one of those guys on defense throughout their 49ers careers.
Real quick, I keep calling Bryce Huff. I keep calling him Hall. And I'm thinking of Breece Hall. Right, so you got Bryce Huff, you got Breece Hall, and I'm thinking Jets. Like I always like, and I know he played for the Eagles, but for Bryce Huff, I'm always going back to Jets, and then I'm like Jets, and then, I don't know why, but Breece Hall keeps popping in my head, and it's like no, it's Bryce Huff.
Well, wasn't there also a Bryce Hall that was a corner?
Yeah,
and did he also play for the Jets?
I think so. So I mean, I'm just getting the name, but anyways. Huff. All right, Huff. So that's who I was talking about when I talked about the defensive line and guys they brought in. But as far as Khalil Davis, Robert Beal Jr., I think there's even more pressure on Khalil Davis because Robert Beal, at the very least, just with his athletic profile, is going to be on all the special teams units. So even if he's not a guy that carves out a role as a main pass rusher, everybody forgets that third phase. You got offense, you got defense, and then there's special teams. And special teams has a coordinator as well. The offensive coordinator gets all the shine. Defensive coordinator get all the shine. Special teams gets blamed as a unit. But man, that special teams coach is going to want his guys, just like an offensive coordinator. Hey, I need these guys to make this go. Defense, same thing. Special teams, it's the same. And the guy with his kind of frame and athleticism, he may never be a great pass rusher and whatever 49ers hope that he potentially could develop into, but a body like that, running down on kickoff, full speed, being able to be a protector on punt unit and then get downfield, make some tackles here and there, open field, that is a huge role for a special teams coordinator. So I think that makes it to where there's even more pressure on Khalil Davis, who can't do any of those things.
That's a great point. And if you are the fifth defensive end, can you just prove that you've developed some pass rush moves, you can play on defense, but you have a utility to play on special teams that Khalil Davis might not. So, and they're not directly competing because one's an end and one's a defensive tackle, but both, I would like to see them, I would like to feel their pressure in preseason games, feel them on the football field as football players beyond what other special teams roles they might have. So yeah, big camps for Robert Beal Jr. and Khalil Davis there. Who else you got, Croc?
All right, my next guy, we talked a little bit about him yesterday, man, but Jacob Cowan. I mean, and some of these guys for different reasons, right? Isaiah Hodgins, we've talked about him as well. Really like him and potential there, but Jacob Cowan was a 4th round pick. You drafted 4th round. You got some injuries and guys kind of banged up at your position. You got a year under your belt. Once that first season is over, you are a veteran now. So you got to step in and really be in tune with what Kyle Shanahan is asking of you. He plays the position that Kyle Shanahan is the hardest on. He's going to be the most difficult on all his receivers. So now you're coming in, that learning curve, that is out the window. We've seen 49ers guys that were either day 2 or day 3 picks get cut for less, right? Or maybe even never have another opportunity. So Jacob Cowan, huge opportunity for him. He's going to be out there. Like, he's got to be out there. There's no way around it. He has to excel. He has to beat man coverage. He has to show versatility. And he has to show that, hey, I am someone that you should be looking to get the ball in my hands multiple ways. And to go kind of piggyback off of the whole thing with Robert Beal. Special teams. They gave him some opportunities as a returner last season. Need more. So, huge offseason, huge training camp for Jacob Cowan.
Yeah, and should obviously see a lot more reps than if the 49ers were fully healthy and not having hold-ins. So make those extra reps that you're going to get in camp count. So it's hard for them to dial your reps back if other guys do suddenly show up and are in the mix. It's an odd wide receiver group with a lot to play out here in the camp in preseason. So potentially a lot riding on it for a lot of guys. I think Jacob Cowan the most. Year 2, you're ready to show that you belong in the NFL and you can handle having a big role if the 49ers need you to have a big role and make them want you to have a big role. Real quick, Alfred Collins is another one for me in the rookie class, and rookies always have a lot to prove. You really just want to see guys like first rounder Mikael Williams. You want to see him look the part, right? There's a lot of opportunities for a lot of defensive rookies this year, but Alfred Collins was a top 50 pick. And I think back to a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, when Aaron Banks was drafted, and he was a top 50 pick, and it's like, okay, interesting. And you and I were like, is he really fit for the outside zone? And we realized later, okay, the Niners were trying to get a little bit beefier, a little stronger, more knockback up front on their offensive line. But Laken Tomlinson was a left guard, and Aaron Banks didn't really suit up much as a rookie, and kind of had a redshirt rookie year, and maybe changed his body a little bit, and was ready to go in year 2 and was pretty good after Laken Tomlinson moved on. There's no Laken Tomlinson right now at defensive tackle. So if Alfred Collins doesn't earn a starting job as a top 50 pick this year, then that tells you something. And if there was a player I would put money on that can't pass the conditioning test on day 1 of camp, it's probably Alfred Collins, because what has he been able to do? He's had a calf injury, so he hasn't been able to condition, hasn't been able to get ready. So how long does it take Alfred Collins to get ready? Is his calf 100%? Is he able to get out there? You hope he didn't balloon up to 350 pounds. He's a big dude already at 330 pounds. So Alfred Collins, I'm going to really be watching him, see how he looks early, and see if he's even available for the 49ers early in camp to compete, because it's wide open at defensive tackle. It is absolutely wide open at defensive tackle. And there's 5 or 6 guys that I wouldn't be shocked if they were starting in week 1. And the 49ers bet that Alfred Collins would be one of those guys. You got to get on the field first, and you got to look the part, especially he's playing that. He's a really big guy. Is he athletic enough? Does he have enough pass rush ability to play that 3 tech role, which I think the 49ers are going to try him at first?
Too many guys on the defensive side of the ball that we've talked about so far, and guys that they're probably going to be banking on to have a big role in what they're doing defensively.
Absolutely.
Like Jacob Cowling, it's like, well, in the perfect world, he wouldn't be the guy out there. And I say in the perfect world, not for him, but just, it would be, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings. Boom, that's our 3 receivers. And then whoever the 4th guy is, Robinson whenever he comes back. Like, that's in the perfect world. Defensively, in a perfect world, Alfred Collins is the one that has to be really good.
No doubt. More players that have a lot to prove, that have a lot riding on training camp in 2025. And I got a couple of sleeper names as well next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Workplace stress is at an all-time high. 61%, in fact, of the global workforce is reporting higher than normal stress levels. This summer is the perfect time to take small steps to focus on your wellness and manage the challenges that come with your workday. Of course, most of us can't just quit our jobs and take endless vacations, but we can start small, whether it's getting outside for a few minutes, adding movement into your day, or talking to someone who can help navigate those life's challenges. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. Maybe you have a busy schedule, and schedule online appointments. The flexibility of online therapy makes it easy to fit sessions into a busy schedule, no matter where you are and when you need to have those online visits. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. So unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Summer sports in full swing, whether you're talking about baseball, and that's what gets you excited, maybe golf on the green. How about some high-stakes soccer action? FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. And yeah, of course, you can still bet on NFL football. That's why you're here listening to this podcast. The weekly line's already up. Bet on the Niners to beat the Seahawks in week 1. Bet on the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. So many 2025 NFL props, college football props available for you. So, you're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? Daily promotions all the time at FanDuel and fun ways to bet. Live same-game parlays as well. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Can we talk about Spencer Burford for a moment, Croc? Because he's a really interesting one. Lost his starting job to Dominic Pooney at right guard last year. now has an opportunity to be maybe a super sub, maybe a sixth man. Could he even still win that left guard job? Or could he be someone that is just very soon going to not be a San Francisco 49er? And I think the job of being the swing tackle is so important. The 49ers lost Jalen Moore, who did a really good job in that role last year, to the Kansas City Chiefs, might be starting protecting Patrick Mahomes' blind side in week 1 for KC. And Spencer Burford's basically battling with Andre Dillard. Dillard's still hurt. Dillard hasn't proven to be a good player in the NFL, if we're being honest. Even he was a first-round pick. And Burford has an opportunity to prove he belongs with the 49ers. Could he earn a starting left guard job? And maybe as important is the guy who's going to back up Trent Williams at left tackle, because we know Trent Williams is going to miss games. So Spencer Burford, I think it's a big camp for him, and getting some looks at some different positions and where the 49ers asking him to line up, I think is something that's going to be fascinating to me.
I don't even think he's in competition at the left guard spot. I think for him, the competition starts at swing tackle. It almost reminds me of like Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, right? And it was kind of like, oh, quarterback battle. It's like, that's for QB2, not QB1. Y'all have zero chance. It feels like that. I think the 49ers have their starting guys that they ideally want to be the guy. Now, if a guy just comes out and he's just shockingly great and takes a huge jump forward, then yeah, but I don't think the 49ers are even anticipating that. I think they're gearing up. Hey, we lost Jalen Moore. We need a legit swing tackle. This is a guy that played and has a lot of experience playing tackle in college. We've played him at guard this entire time. Let's get him reps at tackle. 49er fan base is going to get excited about that, because like, oh, we've been wanting him to play tackle all along. But the 49ers just like, he's just our swing man. So whether he has to come in and play guard, tackle, we need to make sure that he has those reps. I think he's the sixth man.
Any other names jump out to you? I've got a camp sleeper, Croc, that I think could earn a lot more reps than people are giving him credit for right now.
Oh, let's hear it.
Evan Anderson, defensive tackle. He's kind of the reverse version of Kalia Davis. I think he showed enough as an undrafted rookie last year, and there's been very good reports that he's put a lot of work in trying to change his body. He's a 320, 330-pound big defensive tackle. The 49ers were not good against the run last year. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be mad if it's Evan Anderson and CJ West, the 4th-round rookie, that were starting at defensive tackle in that base defense for the 49ers to keep Fred Warner and whoever else is next to Fred Warner clean on defense, so these guys can fly to the football. The 49ers, the number one job for Robert Saleh this year is to fix the poorest run defense the 49ers have had. The really last year and the last couple of years just hasn't been good enough. And Evan Anderson is a player that I think a lot of people are looking at as probably a roster bubble player. I think he might have just as good an opportunity to earn a starting job over Jordan Elliott, who I've not seen anything to get super excited about, and Kevin Givens, whose MO is perfectly fit to be a rotational sort of a backup, come in, high motor, sort of a pass rush interior guy, but I don't know that he's an early down run defender. I think defensive tackle is the most wide open position in training camp, and any number of 5 guys I could see starting on the defensive interior, including Evan Anderson, the undrafted rookie from last year, and 4th rounder CJ West, to go with 2nd rounder Alfred Collins, and the 2 veterans in Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens.
Another name I have for who's in really a big time type of competition, man, has got to be Braden Willis. He's heading into year 3 right now. Haven't really seen him play a ton. Watching him in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, you were thinking like, okay, 49ers, like this is a guy that they like. Look at the type of reps that they're giving him, but we just haven't seen him materialize into anything. So I think that when you look at the tight end position, and they're bringing back guys like Ross Dwelley, who they're just probably really comfortable with, I think Braden Willis is being put on notice. So is he going to make this team and play year 3? Training camp is going to be a big deciding factor for him.
I got one more guy that I skipped on my list that I think this is a really big camp for, and it's safety Jair Brown. I think the evidence shows us that the 49ers aren't completely sold on Jair Brown. And could he potentially even not start, even if he's healthy, at either free safety or strong safety with the 49ers, especially with Malik Mustafa coming back? And I think if Jair Brown, who has started at free safety, if he's playing strong safety in camp and preseason, that tells us that they don't view him as a starter because Malik Mustafa is going to get that job back. And so it's a big camp for Jair Brown as well, being a starting potential long-term player in the NFL, at least for the 49ers.
We talked about the guys that they brought in. Grant, Pennick, those are guys that definitely can push for a starting spot. Guys that just veterans. The game has slowed down for them in a different way. They have plenty of starting experience. These aren't just guys who have been backups on teams. They've started a lot of games. I think those are guys that could potentially push Jair Brown. And it's kind of the perfect storm. It's guys who they're not coming in to be the absolute starter, like as if you were to get Simmons, but they are guys who, hey, if you're tripping a little bit, you may start seeing those guys get more and more reps and steal some reps from Jair Brown. So really, really big offseason. And a guy that nobody has really brought up this entire offseason. I don't even know if we mentioned him on this show, but Siren Neal. You were like, man, I don't remember him coming out of college, but I very well remember Siren Neal coming out of Jacksonville State. I do believe he's drafted or signed to be more of a core special teamer. But going into year 8, trying to see what he is defensively, he is a safety. He could play some of that nickel role. He has some of that kind of versatility. But I think special teams is where he's going to make his niche with the 49ers and play for them this season.
Nickel is interesting too because rookie 5th rounder Marcus Siegel is similar to that, where he played more of a nickel role in college, and you think he's going to transition into more of a pure deep safety, free safety sort of a role, but a player that could drop down and play some nickel. Could he get a lot of looks at nickel as well for depth and kind of do a little bit of both? And we're looking at this like Upton Stout is just going to walk in as a rookie and be the true nickel. Like what if the 49ers realize that their best 3 in nickel is still Deommodore Lenoir moving inside to the slot, and maybe someone like Trey Brown or somebody else is the third corner who plays outside. And now you go from playing 70% of the snaps if you're Upton Stout to playing 0% of the snaps, right? Because the backup nickel doesn't play a lot. The main nickel plays a lot in the NFL. So Upton Stout, that's a pretty big swing. And that's a lot to ask a guy who's picked number 100 overall to walk in and be like, oh, yeah, the hardest position to play on defense. Here you go. You're going to do that from week 1.
Right. Yeah. And I think people are expecting that. I think the biggest transition for him, or what makes it him be able to benefit a little bit more than some other guys, is, he played that position in college, where a lot of other defensive backs were smaller outside corners, maybe didn't have the length, and then they had to go play nickel. So I've been there. I've been in the trenches. He has the physicality. He's going to understand the run fits. So I think that's why people are assuming that it will be more of a seamless transition to the NFL. But NFL, you're getting a lot different looks. The game is faster. The linemen are bigger, stronger, faster. They're moving different. So there still will be an adjustment for him playing right there in that spot.
Yeah, and he absolutely fits the role. Ooh, I really like Upton Stout. Absolutely. So who is your player that has the most riding on camp? Who do you think has the most to prove in camp? Any sleeper camp players for the 49ers? Hit us on Twitter at BD Peacock, at Crocky. Drop a comment on YouTube. Subscribe while there. And Croc and I back tomorrow. Veterans will be reported right here. Locked On 49ers.